So this is going to be the attributes and transformations of f of x equals e to the x. E is the natural logarithmic function. So, in other words, it's just another way of doing an exponential function. E, everybody in your calculator, I want you to find and calculate and type in e to the first power. And what do you come up with? Two, 8, 1, 8. It keeps on going on forever. I can't remember what the pattern. There's not a pattern to it. It's just like pi.
It's 2, 7, 1, 8.
2, 7, 1, 8. Excuse me.
No, like after the first two. I got 2,
2, 7, 1.
1, 8, 2, 8.
And this is going to continue on forever, just like pi. So e is actually a number. It's not a variable. It's a variable representing a number, just like pi represents a number. E is used in the natural exponential function, and we're going to be talking about that today. So if I give you f of x equals e to the x plus 1 minus 7. Or actually, let's just start off with just x plus 1.
And graph that?
And we're going to graph that. And we're going to talk about a couple of things where I do a sketch so you can kind of see where those come from. And I also want to have you graph in the calculator. In your calculator, you should have ended up this picture. Just like yesterday, if you're not moving it up and down just from the same spot that you would move it from yesterday, where it has to be added at the bottom, not in the exponent, that means the asymptote is at y equals 0. And on some of the problems today, you'll have to graph your asymptote. The graph will go through 0, 1. Unless there's a number in front of your e, just like yesterday. Natural exponential functions are all growth as long as your exponent is positive. And so in other words, as long as you don't have a negative x, you're going to see a growth. And so that would be the standard function. But we had a problem. What happened to this function? Instead of going through here, this is if it was e to the x. We have a plus 1. So what did that actually do?
Move it back 1.
Moved it to the left 1. So instead of going through 0, 1, this function is actually going to go through negative 1, 1. And so it just moves it back 1. So let's look in this problem. If I was to ask you, what's the x-intercept? Where would it cross the x-axis?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. Y-intercept. Seems like it's going to be harder. We're going to actually leave it in terms of e. And what you do to find your y-intercept is you are going to plug in f of 0. So it's e to the 0 plus 1. So it's e to the first, and this is your y value. So x is 0, y is e to the first. Do I need to write that 1? E to the first, is that the same thing as e?
Yes.
Yes. And so we're going to leave it in terms of e. This is the way your homework is going to be. It may either have e or e to an exponent. That's okay. Other questions that might be asked are, what's your domain and range? So what's my domain? Do you think that changed from yesterday? Domain was what every single problem yesterday?
Negative infinity, comma infinity.
Mm-hmm. Didn't change. Range. Do you think the way we find range is going to change from yesterday?
No.
No. Because we're everything greater than 0. So 0 to positive infinity. If we shifted that up, we would do greater than that. Okay? So that's the first problem. We're going to do one more of just graphing where I do a different type of transformation. We're going to do f of x equals e to the x plus 7 minus 1 as my function. And so I'm just going to do a sketch real quick over here on the side, and we can kind of talk from that. So, my original function went through 0, 1. I don't have anything being multiplied in the front, so I'm not going to change where that's going through originally. I am now moving it left 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, I didn't give myself enough room that way. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And down 1. And so if I go down 1, that means I am going down to here. That's that new point. It has moved there. Where did my asymptote move to?
It's the same, isn't it? Or did you go back?
It goes down. Because it's minus 1. So your asymptote will be down 1. So my asymptote is at y equals negative 1 because of this. Now, my graph is going to look like this. Come on. And keep going up. So if I was to find my x-intercept, can I find my x-intercept?
What did you be saying?
It'd be this point right here, right?
Yeah.
That's where I moved it to. So that would be at negative 7, 0. My y-intercept is when I do f of 0. So that's e to the 0 plus 7 minus 1. So that is e to the 7th minus 1. And that's how you're going to write it for your y. So 0 comma e to the 7th minus 1. It's going to look like you're not finished, The computer wants you to leave it in this terms. Okay? Now, the next thing. We have x-intercept, y-intercept. We've already done domain and range before, but let's go ahead and do a domain and range on this group. Domain is from negative infinity to positive infinity. Range. Do I still start at 0?
No.
I start off at?
-1.
So again, this guy's going to come into play. Now, the last type of question that they're going to ask on these problems is they're going to give you what is the max and min values over the interval of -2 to 7. Oops. Close bracket. All that's asking you to do is go find f of -2. And so that would be e to the -2 plus 7 minus 1. So that's e to the 5th minus 1. If they want it in decimal form, you would type that in your calculator. And then you would do the same thing for f of 7. E to the 7 plus 7. Oops, I forgot my e. Minus 1. So e to the 14th minus 1. And again, if they want it in decimal form, type it in your calculator. The last thing before I let y'all go is some of the financial questions are going to ask you for interest compounding continuously. Anytime it says compounding continuously, your formula is interest, not interest, amount equals principal times e to the RT. I remember it as PERT. And you just have to remember the RT or the exponent.
And we use that when they say what?
When interest is compounding continuously. Compounded continuously. So let's say you invested $30,000. The investment is compounded continuously for 5 years, and you have 6% interest rate. The amount your account is going to be worth, that A, is going to be 30,000 times e to the r, which is our rate. So that 6% needs to be changed to a decimal.
0.0.
Times your time, which is 5 years. And then you just use your calculator to find that value.